time. This was the moment where I'm like, that's it. That's what I want to do. I want to be a musician.
Oh, I totally do, man. I don't know if I...
How did that go?
It was probably, I think it was in the 80s, no, it was about 83 or 84, where I filed for my taxes as a musician.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, wow.
Cool. That's really cool. I love it.
I go, okay, you know, I had all these other odd jobs and stuff.
Exactly.
Delivering flowers and working at a grocery store and doing all this other stuff. And then
the trials and tribulations of the artist, honestly.
Exactly.
It's such a zigzag path, you know? You really have to do a lot of different things to do what you love. You know?
And even as a musician, I had a teacher, a private teacher, Victor Morosco, that he goes, you know, being a musician, and I had my group. I was in, you know, you're being a self-employed musician, right? Mm-hmm. So he goes, you got to wear different hats as a musician. Yeah. You can't, you're not just like one thing. Yeah. You know,
that's a common thread as well.
You're a teacher, you're a musician, you're an artist, you're a business person,
promoter,
right? Promoting yourself. You're a husband, you're like whatever.
All of it.
All the hats, right?
Right.
And that stuck with me, man. I mean, that was really important for me to hear. It really, very important, because sometimes, you know, you can't do all those things at one time. No. And you're just kind of like...
You're juggling and you're integrating all of those things somehow. It's like you're weaving them in. And that's an art in itself, is to be able to do all those things to keep that art alive.
Exactly. Right? Which, you know, you guys probably know that from like
pretty
your
much.
lives. I mean...
Pretty much,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you were actually pretty old. I mean, if you're filing taxes on your own and that's the moment you decided that's when I'm doing it.
Yeah, because,
it wasn't like when you were 5 or 6 years old.
Oh,
that's weird because he's like, when I decided to file taxes, that means you're probably 20 years old.
Like he made that decision as an adult, not as a 12-year-old.
Right.
I mean, I had all these other interests too. I wanted. I was very much into art, you know. So I wanted to become a photographer if I was going to do, you know, I was taking photography and all this stuff. And then when I loved music, you know, but I didn't, you know, I wanted to play music. But as far as being, making the decision of like becoming a musician.
Right.
Because all growing up, my parents would always say, okay, you know, this is good that you're playing music and everything. It's a nice hobby.
But
you need to have exactly. But you need to like have a steady job. You know, you have to have income. And of course that didn't take, because I stayed living with my parents until I was like about 39.
Oh wow! Okay, cool.
You have good parents.
Well,
I consider those very good parents.
Yeah. Well, that was...
I do.
And they were just thankful he didn't play the drums.
Exactly. Right?
He would have been out in 22 if he was playing the
That's
drums.
so cool. Yeah. That is so cool.
But go ahead.
Or in some shed.
But carry on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I decided that, okay, that was the time. And I go, this is what I'm going to be. I'm going to be a musician, man. This is it. And I think I was in my 20s. I was in my 20s. It was around, 80... Yeah, 84, 85. I was still in college, and I went the 7-year plan.
7 years of college.
Yeah.
Well, first, because I was at a junior college first, you know, community college, San Jose City College, and then I transferred to San Jose State. And then as I was at San Jose State, I got into, I was actually in the Chris Kane band before that. And we started playing all over the place. And he started kind of getting his name out and getting a lot of recognition as an artist, you know, and blues artist. So we started doing all these festivals and around the Bay Area. And then we started touring out up in Canada and, you know, Washington, Seattle. So like the West Coast tour, a northern West Coast tour, went up there. And then made it back, and then we started to tour across the United States. And, you know, but the first, it's kind of funny how, well, we didn't anyway. But as far as like blues bands, our first gig out of the on going back east for a tour would be in not Utah. It wasn't even Utah. It was Lincoln, Nebraska. It was our first gig.
Wow.
So we had to drive to Lincoln, Nebraska first to start our tour.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just started doing all that, and then I was able to sustain. Well, I was still living with my parents, but I was able to pay bills and
some income,
and have some income.
Yeah.
Not great.
Yeah.
But
something.
Yeah.
But it was something.
Yeah.
But we were like a family, It's kind of like I was in my 20s,
Yeah.
going across the
Yeah.
United States and touring and traveling.
It's
and
very
stuff.
cool.
No,
That's
wonderful.
a great beginning.
What is
yes.
your background? What's your nationality and your
Filipino.
family? Filipino.
Yeah.
Both parents are.
Yeah, both parents say.
Mm-hmm.
That's a story. My parents met in World War II.
Wow.
In a village that my mom Cebu, and
That's her name.
that's a city that
Oh, that's
she
a city. Okay.
And my dad was stationed there, and he was in the U.S. Army as a sergeant, helping people to take them to get their supplies, and this was during World War II.
Wow.
And so they met with her getting a ride with them, and she was like 18 or 17 or 18, and he was in his mid-20s or something. No, he was older than that. He was about like a 25, 26. Somewhere on there. And then, because I have this diary, this little small diary that my dad had.
Oh, that he kept?
When they met.
Oh,
No
nice.
way.
Yeah, it was like all his cursive writing was like beautiful, man. My
Yeah.
dad had this great writing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and so it's all about when they met, and he's meeting all the family and all this other stuff, and then how he has to take off after they get married for 2 years before they even hook up and get together, because of being in the service.
Okay.
He got stationed someplace
Right.
else, and then they meet up in the United States in 1947.
So I do interviews, basically. I interview
Oh.
musicians. Yeah.
Oh,
They have a
Uh-huh.
lot. It's. You may have said this as I got distracted.
That's
so
okay.
Forgive me. Just
Yeah.
kick me or do
Yeah.
whatever it is you're going to do.
Are we not live anymore?
No, he dropped the phone.
Such a small phone.
That's okay.
Well, holy shit.
Well, that and I think he was cramping up being 72. Yeah, and he's got a compliment. Okay. All right, hang in there, buddy. This isn't your last night.
Exactly.
I'm pushing him to the edge.
Catura?
Yeah, you mentioned about my album that I had out, which
Yeah.
is already 11 years old,
Okay.
Wow.
pretty much, or
Yeah.
12, I think.
Well, it's timeless because I listened to it last night
Oh, well,
and I was
thanks. Yeah.
jamming to it, you know?
Well, that's nice to
Uh-huh.
hear, because I'm working on another one with a friend of mine, Polo Jones. He's a bass player that plays with Zucchero. He's an R&B artist in Italy, and he's like this Grammy award-winning vocalist. He's kind of like in the vein of Joe Cocker.
Oh,
in that vein.
Nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah.
And but he's like real famous over there,
Mhm.
and so we're writing together, and he Polo. I call him Paul because that's how I know him. It's Paul, but I called him, and I go, hey man, let's get together. And he called me to offer to do the writing together, and I was surprised because I've known him for years. He was in the band Sister Monica. I don't know if you're familiar with Sister Monica. She was a blues singer back in the
Oh,
2000s.
I am not. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
weird that I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she actually was did pretty heavy touring, but she started out. She was from Gary, Indiana. Gary, Indiana.
Either one works for me. I don't know either of the places.
I hear it's Gary, but I think it's Gary, Indiana, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm not sure. You
Yeah.
can tell me anything. I'll be like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Was it
sounds
the
good to me.
Music Man, or like the Gary, Indiana?
I continue to do, and inside the club and outside of here, and obviously everybody that is part of this scene, I feel is very cool. Otherwise,
Oh yeah.
They
man.
wouldn't be, right?
Totally.
But I've run across some people that aren't as accepting or gracious or open,
Right.
however you want to phrase it,
Right.
as you are. And that's one of the things I really admire about you. This is real talk.
I know.
Not only do I love your style of playing.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it was with Farida over here, there's a song called Familiar Faces that I just love. It's actually Farida Nelson, who's got her own show over here after our February 3rd show, which has got your boy in it, Bobby Valderrama.
Oh, right.
Okay,
Yeah.
which we talked about you
Oh, you
last
played with
time,
Bobby.
right?
He's played with
Because
Bobby.
He's played with Bobby.
Okay.
Bobby
Years ago.
mentioned
In your
that he
show?
played with you.
In your show or outside of your show?
I don't know if
Okay.
you ever played with him.
Oh
With
yeah,
one of
years
my
ago
shows?
before.
No, but it was one of the improv
No,
shows.
we haven't done any shows together.
Okay.
Bobby and I.
Thank you, because
Yeah.
I got to work that out.
Yes, that would be great.
It's okay.
That would be awesome.
cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would be
I-
cool.
yeah, well, of course,
Yeah.
I can't tell you when and
Yeah,
all that
exactly,
kind of stuff.
yeah.
But
Oh.
just to kind of put a point on what I was
Yeah.
saying is that
Mhm.
I really like and appreciate your style, because I can come to you and ask for pretty much anything, and there it is. And you do a really good job of conveying the ramblings of this guy right here. So, I'll just come up, and you know how I am, dude. I'll just be saying whatever pops in my head. Whether it's a painting.
I'm happy to do it.
Yeah,
too,
and I'm
man,
like-
'cause, you have a nice array of subjects and
and so
titles and
whatever
stuff, which is
random
good.
thing I come up with, and I'm like, and sometimes even when it comes out of my mouth, 2 seconds after it comes out of my mouth, I'm like, oh shit, I don't know if they're gonna be able to do this thing that I just described. But 100%, everybody, including you,
Yeah.
kind of nails it. So if it's a painting that I'm describing and I give you a title, man, I swear that sound matches what's visible.
Well, I when you do that, like sometimes I feel like when we're with a group, especially with the rhythm section, you can try it. Everybody tries to get it, their what would it be, their take on whatever you're describing, right? But I really take it into mind, like, okay, let me see if I can emulate
Oh,
what
I
he's
see that.
saying,
Yeah.
Where am I going to go with this with my
yeah, especially
got it.
on saxophone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, sometimes you have to wait a little bit sometimes with the horn,
yes,
right? To
yeah.
And find that
Yeah.
time.
yeah, and find that timing
Oh,
there.
Raine,
Yeah.
one of the things